It was a very big political game. Every 3 years, there was always that uncertainty of where is the plant going to go? Are we going to be secure with our jobs? It was a relief. It's an end of an era and a chapter in my life. What drew me to work at General Motors was my father. There was so much opportunity. So I did everything there under the sun. Everyone took pride in their jobs. That was the reward. We actually took pride in our own work. And I knew at the end of the day when I walked out of that plant that was my reward. That I went in there and I gave my best. I liked working at General Motors for several reasons, but primary was the people you worked with. There was a lot of good people there, whether it was with management, a union, or a person that worked across from you. Basically, you developed a lot of good relationships.
I liked the people I worked with. I certainly liked the money. The environment, it was pretty dirty, greasy, loud. The guns did damage to your nerves. I've had cortisone shots in my elbows. I've got a bad knee. The jobs are tough. That was probably the worst part of it. Some of the jobs were hard.
It's a commemorative book. Scarborough Van Plant made this book, and it was symbolic for us because the valuable asset for GM is the people. It shows each department, all the people, whether it was management or the people on the line, engineers. So everyone was included. Every picture shows every employee.
Ontarians, people living in Oshawa, have this thought of General Motors of Canada that I think is very unique to this area. There are some people who look back at the McLaughlins and do feel that they ruined the city of Oshawa. Oshawa was a bustling urban city at the time, before the McLaughlins moved the carriage works and eventually the motor car company here. So there were many factories, there were many industries. And then when the carriage works arrived and subsequent motor car company and then General Motors, it became a one industry town. And I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because there are generations who had their bread and butter from General Motors. So there's a lot of people who credit General Motors with their lifestyle. We also know that there were times that there obviously was going to be some strife, labor negotiations and strikes and those sort of things. So there is definitely a us versus them in the way some things are perceived. But for the most part, I think that there is always respect because he created the lifestyle that these people had.
I myself admire Sam McLaughlin. He's done a lot for auto workers. He's helped a lot for the community of Oshawa to put Oshawa on the map. I believe all the auto workers were very appreciative having a contract with General Motors for so many years to keep that footprint within Oshawa. We were very respectful towards him and what he's done.
The General Motors closure, the day it happened, it was announced on a Friday, but on the Thursday night there was rumors. And I actually received correspondence from the grandchildren. One of the grandsons saw it come up across the bottom of his news screen that General Motors of Canada was closing. They saw their legacy come to an end.
When I heard of the announcement of the Oshawa car assembly plant closure, I was actually in my living room one evening, and I was watching the news, and it was a news flash. Right there it said Oshawa announced to be closed within a year's time. And I was pretty much dumbfounded.
When they announced the plant was closing and we went back to work the Monday, I was shocked. I had a pit in my stomach. I felt really bad. People were disappointed. They were upset. A lot of people were angry. The unrest on the line was terrible. There was a lot of depressing people. There was a lot of crying. There was a lot of almost fights. There was aggravation. There was people that were almost getting to fist fights on the line. It was ugly. It got really ugly.
I was sad. Because we did so much that past year to have that plant keep going. And it was a slap in our face to have that being told to all of us through a television. Yeah, it impacted everybody, management, union, people on the floor. I remember coming in the next day and I remember people's expressions on their faces. Pretty much it was in disbelief. this can't be happening. And like I said, it was a 1-year window period from that announcement to the closure. It was very, very difficult to keep the morale because of so much that was going on with people's personal lives. And I'm talking right across the floor. Marriages were breaking up. Substance abuse started going on the rise.
I think they all felt the same way. They felt betrayed. The community's been there for GM for, like I said, 100 years. The people on the line supporting GM, most of us have bought GM vehicles most of our lives. I'm disappointed in General Motors. I think Oshawa deserves better. I think for the future generations, they're the ones that are being penalized by the decision.
When the Oshawa closure was announced, but prior to that, there were so many of the plants closing. It was just, there was too much evidence of what was happening. And it was like watching the spread of a cancer happening. We were all kind of preparing for the worst case scenario. They lost their opportunity because we had so many skilled people, so many educated people, so many people that had so many ideas to move that company forward. But to have even at the plant close, there was quite a few people, a majority that would have been beneficial for that company to stay there. I feel that it was their loss more than ours.
Well, the closure of the GM facilities was a huge blow. GM was the mainstay of Oshawa for over 100 years. I think the future of manufacturing, it has to be a bright future, because if you don't have a strong manufacturing base, you have no strong foundation for a good economy. So manufacturing jobs are critical. Do I believe the manufacturing sector in this country is dead? The answer is no. It better not be, or you're in big trouble. GM has been an integral part of the community of Oshawa. It's a part of the social fabric. For me, finding a solution for GM in Oshawa is personal. My father, who's 90, lives in Oshawa. My mother is buried in Oshawa. 2 of my sisters live in Oshawa. Nieces and nephews live in Oshawa. So I have some unfinished business in Oshawa.
I owed a lot to my father for what he did, and if it wasn't for him, and if it wasn't for me working at General Motors, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. The impact it did on me physically, I'm paying for it now. And it's going to be a long recovery for almost 30 years.
What you are capturing was a historic moment in this country. The first time ever in the history of this country that a closed auto plant actually reopened. You know, it was personal for me. The closure of Oshawa happened under my watch. Entering negotiations with GM, I had a very aggressive agenda, and I was determined to, frankly, fix what I perceived to be a wrong. And so this was about jobs. This is about a 100-year history of General Motors in Oshawa. Look, it was an uphill battle. I mean, if we're being honest, there was only a handful of people that actually thought that getting GM to reopen Oshawa was even feasible. Nobody saw this coming. That's what makes it very sweet, is that most people gave up on us, including all the politicians, but we stuck with it. Oshawa will always be an automotive town. If I was a gambler, I'll say we'll be building vehicles in Oshawa long after I'm long gone. And that to me is what's personally satisfying.